Welcome everyone to Echoes from the Wild. I'd like to welcome Combrink. Thank you for being my first. Thank you very much, and welcome to all the listeners. Please like and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. Appreciate as much feedback, especially with this being my first podcast. The idea behind Echoes from the Wild is to talk about real stories, real heroes, real people who are involved with anti-poaching and wildlife conservation. And when I say real stories, I mean real stories, nothing that's romanticized about what happens behind a lot of these training facilities, real encounters, and the day-to-day ongoings as a ranger. My name is Jacques van Straten. I am an anti-poaching ranger based in South Africa. I have worked up north. I've worked in the Kruger National Park. I've worked in Hoedspruit, and I've worked in the Western Cape. I've been doing anti-poaching for approximately 3 years. Let's get started. Welcome, Combrink.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Tell me how it all started.
I've always liked being outside in nature and like exploring on a family farm from my mother's, looking for animals, tracking animals. And I've also been interested in military lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of combine it. I didn't know about anti-poaching until I think I was like 17.
Okay.
When I heard about Pro Track and then Gameways, who I then signed up for.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it all started. Being able to protect animals, be outside in nature.
Yeah.
Also with that type of military aspect.
Okay.
Doing patrols, tracking, all that type of stuff.
So just to touch base, Combrink and I know each other quite well. We've worked together for a long time. We did our training together. We didn't do our training at Pro Track. So I do know that you've always been a fan of the military type lifestyle. You've always been very disciplined. You're a hard worker, person I trust with my life. We go way back in terms of like not knowing each other, but of what we have in common.
Mm-hmm.
I was born with a heart condition. I've had 2 open heart surgeries. You were born with a heart condition.
Yeah, I think it was very similar to yours. And
you had your open heart surgery when you were a baby.
Yeah, like 2 weeks old.
2 weeks old, okay. So by the same surgeon, Dr. Susan Vosloo, who did my second surgery when I was 23, which is absolutely crazy. The fact that we ended up at the same training facility.
Yeah, it's just weird how things work out.
Yes. So like I said, same training facility, we ended up working together as well. And so going back to your personality, I've always noticed that you've been a fan of the military lifestyle, very disciplined. Has that been from a young age?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe not always, but ever since I heard about like my uncle being in the military, and of course, as kids play cops and robbers and that type of stuff. I've always been interested in that, and it's never really gone away.
Okay.
Like of some people.
Yeah.
Like a lot of my high school friends went into IT and stuff like that, but I was still kind of didn't know where exactly I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Because of our world changed and people saying no, you need to work more in technology and IT and stuff because that's where the money is.
Yeah.
And I knew I wouldn't be happy in that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to survive a week sitting in front of a computer every day.
Yeah.
So, being outside in the bush, even if you get chased by a buffalo or rhino, it's that adrenaline and
yes.
we know what we signed up for.
Yeah.
And it's that adrenaline rush, and I really enjoy that part. It's just kind of, you've been on a lot of patrols. Maybe you've been on patrol a few days and it's a bit boring, and then suddenly something just happens. Maybe just stumble on a gang of buffalo, or just come around the corner and there's a rhino, and just a bit of a fright and adrenaline just
wakes you up.
Yeah, wakes you up. Your day is just a bit more.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The job is quite monotonous. It's I won't say boring. It's boring but productive. You've got to keep awake. You've got to be alert.
Yeah, like we said, and in this type of line of work boring, or if something doesn't happen while it's technically good,
Yeah.
if there's no gunshots.
Yeah, 100%. Well, if you're constantly, the way I've always looked at it, if you're constantly getting into contact, someone's fucking up.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the fence line, whether it's on the perimeter, whether it's just not being alert, not being awake. If you're constantly getting into contact, if you're constantly finding snares, and especially in a small reserve, someone's fucking up their job.
No, definitely.
But even still, when it does get monotonous, and you do you've got to be careful not to get into that routine of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to where it all started, so where we did our training together, we haven't really spoken much about this. We've just kind of gone along with our lives. If I'm correct, you went the first time and then you were injured, and then you went the second time, which is when you were with me.
Yes, the first time. So it was.
So tell me more about that.
So the first time I think it was like a ganglion cyst, something like that, on my ankle. And I did see it before the course actually, but it wasn't a problem.
Okay.
And then continuing with the course with PT every day.
Yeah.
I think it was with all the running and then the obstacle courses where you jump off stuff, where it eventually ended up where I couldn't properly walk, and it ended. Yeah, so I kind of dropped off.
When did you drop off? Did you drop off during the basics, or did you drop off just after basics?
Yeah, it was during the basics. I think it was like I was like a week and a half in.
Okay.
Something like that. And then unfortunately that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, the group of guys I was with during that course, a great group of guys.
Yeah.
I would have loved to be able to finish that course with them, but if I did, then we probably wouldn't be having this podcast right now.
Yeah.
So just, again, how things work out.
Yeah. And then going back to the second course, the second time that you enrolled, where we trained together, I think we actually ended up being in the same dorm for the first or the second week of basics.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I think. Well, no, after basics, we were next door neighbors in dorms, because I was with Vervaart and you were with Aldrich.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell me about your second time. Tell me about the training. Tell me about just how you enjoyed it, how you found it. Yeah.
So going back the second time, I mean, I was excited, of course, but there was also kind of this voice in my head, like, should you be doing this? Maybe you should rather not fall out again, do something else. Yeah, you just know that voice in your head. You're leaving your family for a few months in the bush, middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's, voices start talking, but at the end it was, I think we were at the time one of the biggest groups that finished that course.
Yeah.
A few guys did fall out.
Yeah, seven guys in the first 7 days dropped out.
Yeah.
Or fell out, not dropped out.
And still we were one of the biggest groups to finish that course. I think that was also a high point for me, that we were one of the biggest groups. In the physical training, I actually really liked a lot.
Yeah.
I might have been the fastest and stuff like that, but I really enjoyed that. The thing that was actually for me challenging, I want to say, or was having to do at first when you had to do radio communications and I say more technical stuff.
Yeah.
That I didn't have any knowledge of.
Yeah.
That I was kind of stressed out. I'm not going to do this right.
Yeah.
And I'm messing up and then giving out the wrong messages and sending the guys into danger.
Yeah.
That's the type of stuff that was playing in my head every night. Like, shit, I'm going to screw it up again.
Yeah.
But you just got to get over that. If you made a mistake, just learn from it.
Yes.
Don't make it again.
Yeah.
That's, I think, one of the biggest things during a course like this. If you screw it up, maybe it's not that bad. Just don't do it again.
Yeah, well, especially with Chief looking over your shoulders or standing there in front of you. I remember, because I also struggled with the radio comms in the beginning, because whenever I got the radio, I felt very much like oh shit, I'm gonna screw up now, and I would screw up, and then The best is when I think I said thank you at the end of the transmission,
Yeah, I remember.
and Chief said, "No thank yous, no pleases, no being nice, straight to the point."
Knoffelneus.
Yeah, I don't think he called me a Knoffelneus or Knoffelkorp. I think that was someone else.
It's a few other people.
But he did threaten to have his hand across my face once when I wasn't jumping off the back of the bucky properly, and he did throw a stone at me,
Accidentally.
which it was intended for the person behind me. I did take that like a boss. I did take that like a champion. So yeah, going back to the training, especially what led up to the second time around, because we were all given a kind of a training program. I know you said you were one of the fastest. So leading up to the second time around, where was your mind at? You know, what were you doing to prepare mentally and physically for the second time around?
So, I mean, preparing for the second time, I wanted to come back in January, but my foot was not ready yet. I did get surgery for them to cut out the cyst.
Yeah.
So for like a month or something, I was in cast, and I mean, I couldn't walk properly for a while. So it's actually getting back into running after your leg is basically numb, and you could definitely see the muscle loss in the one leg. So having to build that up again, and then getting back into running, getting back in to get the time that you need to do pass.
Which was sub 30 5K in sand, in beach sand. We're in the middle of nowhere. Okay, we're in the middle of Limpopo, and there's beach sand. You would not expect beach sand, but it's brown beach sand, and it was a sub 30 5K.
Yeah.
Correct, in boots.
No, that when you did the fitness test, it was in our.
Okay, it was in PT clothes. It was in PT clothes. Yeah. So sub 30 5K in beach sand. And then straight after the sub 30, straight after the 5K.
You get about 10 minutes rest time, I think. And then it was the push-ups.
It was push-ups, then straight into sit-ups, and then it was the 90, it was the 36 meter sprints, shuttle sprints.
It was 6 meter, 36 meter sprints.
And you had to complete that in 90 seconds.
Yeah. That I was actually not too bad at. The sprinting I was pretty...
I struggled with 5K.
The running, I think my time to do that, like 2.5, was actually pretty good. But then on my way back, I think it was like the last 2 kilometers, my head, again, like, oh, I should maybe just fall out now.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think I did make it just in time. I know I could have done a lot better.
What was your time again?
I think it was literally like just 30, a few seconds over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, shit, because I knew I could do it in 27, 26. And so me and I think it was 2 other people, had to run up the stairs, up and down to prepare for the next fitness test. So we had to do 2 fitness tests.
Yes.
In that first 2 weeks. And
so
if you felt
the second was at the end of basics, eh?
So the second one was in the middle of basics.
Okay.
So it was the first fitness test the start of the week.
Yeah.
And then after a week it was another fitness test to see how far we got.
Okay. What was your time then?
My time then I think was like 29, 28.
Okay, that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Nice.
Yeah, I just had to push it.
Yeah.
This time,
So what did you do for when you were having those moments where you felt like I should just quit? What was your thought process?
No, I mean I think it was having to call my parents again. Like, hey, I failed the first fitness test.
Yeah.
You can come pick me back up now after they drove all the way, basically from the most southern point on South Africa all the way up to almost the most northern point.
Yeah.
Having to tell them to come back, it's like, and then seeing, I mean, they know I was fit enough.
Yeah.
So unless I came back with another injury, it was like, I would feel like shit.
Yeah.
to have to do that. So it was just like, just continue, push,
Stick it out.
just stick it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, okay, dude, it's just like 2.5, 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to go into the military, you can do a lot with shit in this.
Yeah.
So it's like, just stick it out.
Yeah.
Stop being a bitch.
Yeah. Well, going on, just to add on to that note, I know that you've spoken about, joining the French Foreign Legion a couple of times. We both have, especially recently, 2 weeks ago when you asked me if I wanted to join you after certain things happened. I was very keen to to get on that bandwagon with you, since I still fall under the age group. So is that still something that you're considering? Is that something that you're still passionate about?
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm still considering. I mean, I'd love to get that training, go to the Legion. I think there's still like this part of me that still doesn't know where I belong. I mean, I do enjoy what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But I think I just want to get away from the things I know, people I know.
Yeah.
No will be hard. But yeah, I think going to the Legion, and it's also being able to see the world, travel, that military companionship, camaraderie,
brotherhood.
That's the type of stuff that I want to experience more.
Yeah.
And with the training, I would get there, come back to South Africa or Africa and start training anti-poaching rangers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, not a lot of people who exit South Africa want to come back, but I don't see myself as being able to move to the UK or someplace and never coming back here.
Yeah.
It's just, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, I feel you in that. I think once you've picked this type of lifestyle and once you've picked this type of career and the passion is there, but, not just, like you mentioned just now, like, being on a fence patrol and you walk into a herd of buffalo, or you turn the corner of a bush and you walk into a sleeping rhino, and both of you kind of yourselves. Being able to live that type of life, you don't really want to choose anything else or go anywhere else.
No, and the thing that I just want to say, I mean, everybody that chose to do anti-poaching or game guarding, it's not like you're being drafted by your country and like, okay, there's a terrorist attack or something.
Yeah.
Now you're going to war, you're being drafted. Everybody chose to do this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not a lot of people doing this type of work that chose to do this.
Yeah.
Or like you said, some people, anti-poaching chose them.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, you just fall into it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's why I think people decided to do this line of work, being away from your family for weeks, sometimes for months, being in the bush. They don't know what's happening to you.
Yeah.
They might just get a phone call. You've been shot or mauled by a lion.
Yeah.
That's the reality of the work we do.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, I've got a lot of respect for everybody that decided to go into this line of work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know someone who has had, well, actually we know 2 people, one person who has lost his life from an elephant, but someone else who's had a few wild experiences, not just with poachers, being stabbed in the back with a machete, a couple of farm, because with anti-poaching, you're not just quite involved with anti-poaching, you're sometimes involved with farm protection because of the...
You're qualified as security.
No, well, you've got to be Sierra registered in order to operate. But yeah, so just going back to the training and everything. So after basics, we started doing more, I want to say, romanticized training. For me, the basics was fun, because it's a lot of PT. It's a lot of PT. It's breaking us down to build us back up. Which a lot of military organizations and private military or even private security organizations do when they're offering these types of courses. But after the basics was done and we started doing more like practical work, like advanced OPs, firearms training, weapons tactics and like that. How did you find that? Was there anything that you struggled with? Is there, yeah,
Like I said, it was the radio communications that I was struggling with, and I think it was more the fact that I was afraid of failing and messing up. That kind of this voice said, "You'd rather drop out instead of embarrassing yourself,"
yeah,
and stuff like that. But then it's like, okay, maybe there's a few guys that does know more about firearms and stuff like that.
yeah,
But they don't necessarily know what we are doing here.
yeah,
And that maybe because of the stuff they know, they've got an idea of what it is, what it maybe not is,
yeah,
So just kind of pushing through that and just, like you said, being a sponge, just listening, look, listen, learn, like Chief always said.
yes, yeah,
And yeah, I just always have to be open to new ideas. And, we did sort of house clearing type of training.
yeah,
Which I enjoyed that, but it was like afterwards talking with people like our friend from Canada
yeah,
who's more experienced in that type of stuff, we realized this is really outdated actually.
Yeah.
And I do want to do that type of stuff,
CQC, yeah.
but definitely bit more advanced and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, an anti-poaching probably won't use it that much, but the thing is, if you do have to respond to a farm attack, you might have to.
Yeah. I mean, I've used CQC on this specific property once, back in the day.
Okay.
On this specific property, I used it once. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's something that is needed. It is helpful when you are moving. I mean, even moving through a bush encroachment, bush environment, especially harsh bush environment. When you start cornering around bushes, etc., with your team, those ideas and those movements do come into play. But I agree with you in terms of it being outdated. But I think it definitely was a stepping stone. And again, I want to bring up the point about a lot of these things being romanticized on courses. A lot of it is romanticized. You kind of, these kids, and there are kids that are coming out of these courses, and they have this idea that they're going to be sitting advanced OPs every single day.
I think that they're the man now. They know everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you get to like a place like this or the Kruger, and then you realize, we've only know this little.
Exactly.
Like, exactly. I mean, you have to realize that in the training they give us, there is good training.
Yeah.
But over the years, like in the Kruger especially, people have realized, okay, this doesn't work anymore. Yeah. Because poachers in the Kruger and KZN up there, those areas, some of them are using thermal.
Yeah.
Now night vision.
Yeah, drones.
There's been cases apparently that I've heard from poachers shooting rhinos from helicopters.
Yeah.
And they've got their fingers in corrupt veterinarians.
Yeah.
And that's actually another thing that we are, I think, exposed to. I mean, if you're being shot by a dart that was meant for a rhino weighing almost a ton, and that's like we were taught on the course. It's you can just go sit and lie down because you're gonna die.
That stuff touches your skin, you're dead.
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
getting a leg blown off, which maybe not happen here if you got a tourniquet.
Yeah.
You might still be able to be, save your life or your partner's life. But being shot with one of those tranquilizers that's meant for almost a ton rhino or elephant, you're dead.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. And not just that, not just the dart guns, the rifles that they use. I mean, when I was in the Kruger, it was my first time going to that type of environment, and I wanted to take my vest, and they said, "Don't bother, it's just gonna weigh you down." And
I mean,
if you get shot by what the rifles that they used to put rhinos or elephants down, your insides are
like a, let's say, 416 Rigby or 458 Win Mag,
yeah,
which is actually, I've seen a lot of poachers start using it nowadays. I mean, if you're wearing even level 5 body armor, maybe that bullet doesn't go through, but if you've seen the videos on YouTube, your sternum, it's going to be absolutely screwed. You might as well just, if you are going to get shot by it, then just, I'm going to say let it be quick. It sounds terrible saying this, but it'll be better to just...
Paul, that's what, that's what I took from my time up in the Kruger, was that, I mean, that's why I don't wear it now. It's because, number one, it's going to weigh me down if I need to get away from a predator, or if I need to get away from an elephant. And I'm already in gear, and I already can't run faster than a buffalo or a hippo or an elephant. So it's just going to weigh me down, and if I get shots, I'm just going to be in absolute tormented pain. That's if they hit me in the chest.
No, that's...
or
I mean, I think getting... I don't know if you've ever seen anybody, but I think getting hit, let's say in the leg with like a 416 Rupee or 458 Win Mag, it's not going to be pretty.
No, but at least you can put a tourniquet.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
Whereas the torso and your stomach, just
Yeah, that's...
like, you might as well not even use any wound packing. Just leave me be.
Give me some morphine. Huge doses of morphine.
Yeah. So just moving on to some of your experiences. Tell me about your first job in anti-poaching. How, what was it like, that transition from, and this is what I actually wanted to mention just now, was, with the training, with this romanticized idea about being in advanced OPs and setting up advanced OPs, you can't say ambushes anymore. But being in that situation, and then you come to an environment where you're not doing that. Like, you're doing fence patrols, you're doing patrols through bush lines, through dry riverbeds. Very different. And you're tracking lost locations depending on the size of the reserve. If they want you to have eyes on assets, you're tracking assets a lot of the time, or you're tracking fresh human spoor. So tell me what your first job was like, and what you were expecting. Was it what you expected, or were you taken back a bit?
When you finished that training, I think I was probably, when you started here, probably at my fittest that I've ever been, and when we went on patrols during our training, it wasn't, I mean, your smallest patrol was maybe like 2 guys, but you always had to have a buddy, and you only split up like that if your tracks are going, different ways. Like, getting into my first job, you hear about this place, it's a Big 5 reserve. You've come here with the idea you're going to do patrols, you're going to set up OP, you're going to camp out in the field. I've got my big rucksack, old army rucksack and everything. You get here and you put on night shift in an ops room for 12 days. And I'm like, okay, and I just did an anti-poaching course. Yes, but we don't trust you yet. And okay, I can kind of understand that. Which is a valid point. That's especially with some of the people that we fucking witnessed. Yeah, there's definitely some of the people I completely understand that. But then, I mean, if you've already worked here for a month, 2 months, and there's still some stuff they don't want to tell you, and it's still a bit like, I mean, you do know me pretty well. I mean, we live on the same property, we've had brides together, and so, but still. But yeah, it was not what I was expecting. I think I'm not against it. I think it's kind of put me, you see what other type of security work is, getting experience in that for, maybe in case you need if you need to go back to town for something and back to the city and just work in an ops room just to get some extra money.
Yeah.
Because some of those jobs do pay a bit more than anti-poaching and some reserves, like we've seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely not what I was expecting. And then our patrols during the day when we were on day shift, just being one person in the field was like, I patrolled a lot. I walked long distances.
Yeah.
I found tracks, didn't find a lot of snares at the time.
Yeah.
But you're tracking. I think that being on my own actually, having to track the assets on my own actually helped me a lot with improving my tracking.
Yeah.
Especially on this soil we have with the terrain. It's very rocky terrain, hard terrain. There could be, you could have seen the asset just walk, and then you see maybe part of the toe.
Yeah.
From that, having to track in this type of terrain, I think did help a lot with improving my tracking abilities. But yeah, it was kind of in the sense, okay, let's say something does happen now.
Yeah.
At the time, our radios couldn't always communicate.
Yeah, they weren't digital.
Yeah, so if I was on the most farther side of the reserve, and something suddenly happens, at the time we didn't have firearms.
Yeah.
And the radios didn't work correctly, and it's like, well, what do you want me to do if something happens in that occasion?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, and then but just do what you're trained to do. And well, I've been trained to do a lot more, but I can't because of
the situation.
The situation, and it's like, I don't hate it for it being like that. I think it's actually opened my eyes to how things maybe shouldn't exactly be.
Yes.
I know they did try to do a lot.
Yeah.
The management here did try to do a lot, but unfortunately there was
the upper level.
At the upper level where we couldn't expand more and get the proper equipment and
I
extra
completely
training.
agree with you. My time working when I moved over to private security, when I was a GM at that private security firm in Cape Town, and also at another specific reserve, I learned that you learn from certain owners how to do things and how not to do things. And a lot of the people that I've worked for, especially a certain group of people, I learned how to do things.
Yeah.
And I owe that family my life. I know how to do things, but I've also worked for some companies, some owners, where you look at them, for example, a certain guy who walks out of his house with his hanging out, greeting you, and then expects you to stand at attention when you say good morning to him, and then starts giving you your patrol plan. True story. You learn how not to do things, and how not to treat your staff, and how not to have a business operated where you are forced to be in a dangerous environment, in a harsh environment, and firstly not have firearms, and secondly not have working equipment, and thirdly also not have uniform. Working in an environment where you aren't provided uniform, and you're running through your own shoes, which costs money. You're running through your own clothes, which costs money.
Yeah, I think for our line of work, proper boots is a key essential.
Shout out to Jim Green, please sponsor us.
Yes, definitely Jim Green. Anyone else you want to mention, maybe for sponsors?
I'll just mention Jim Green, or maybe I can create some competition. Dude, those Under Armour boots that Fafard had,
Oh yes, those are nice.
But you get the
yes,
high top ones.
I was looking at them last night.
They're 3,000 rand, bro. That's expensive.
So
that's more expensive than a gym green. Under Armour sponsor us.
Under Armour or Gym Green.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. But all of that is important in our day-to-day working environment.
I mean, if you have to buy your own boots on the salaries we were getting, it's basically half your salary gone to get proper boots that'll last you a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, you can buy cheaper stuff, but the reality is it's not gonna last that long, and I'd rather pay more for good quality boots that I can, just take care of and it'll last me a few years.
Yeah.
Than buying something that's maybe like a $500 cheaper or $1,000 cheaper, but it breaks after like 3 months.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so going back to work. So tell me some of your experiences, some of your encounters.
So I mean, my first week, or my first few days on day shift here, at that reserve, it was different. Having to patrol on your own was weird for me at first.
Yeah.
After our training and everything, but you train to do something, and then they say no, we do it like this here. Like, okay, I've open mind. I know everybody does things differently.
Yeah.
But I felt like maybe, I can add something to this for my training. But I mean, this first week, I think I was tracking, just do a patrol, and I saw the assets, the rhino tracks, and started tracking it, and then I saw a bottle under a tree, and I'm like, okay, well, this is where I'm gonna pick up the bottle. And as I'm walking to the bottle, I just see this massive thing stand up, and it was one of the rhinos, and I was like 2.5 meters away from it, and I'm like standing there looking at it, and the wind was
not in your favor.
Blowing into my face. No, it wasn't my favor.
It was in your favor, sorry.
It was my favor, luckily. And I'm like standing there and like, so rhinos can't see well.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like standing here listening, can you hear me? Can you smell? I'm like, no, and I just started walking back slowly, and he turned around, and and then he shouldn't run, but I was already like a few meters away, and my vehicle was close by, so I just quickly went to the vehicle and just and afterwards I realized, well, I actually went back with the vehicle and just to and started tracking it the whole day basically. But it was one thing that's actually like a lot of fun for me was tracking the assets. You've done your patrols. You've basically wasn't a big reserve. You've already walked everywhere. And then tracking the assets and just looking at their personalities. Like how each one is different, and how they respond to humans. And that's what I thought that was fun for me to do. Like when I was on my own. And then just making notes of the behavior and stuff like that. And I mean, I didn't have too much close encounters with the elephants. There were a few. Like this one day I was on patrol, and I found a carcass of what looked like a dog possibly. But it was just, the carcass was just weird. It almost looked like the snout. It's just like the head and the spinal cord. It looked like a snout was cleanly cut off, which is weird for me. And so I went back to kind of try and get a location of where it was, and I'm pretty sure I was on that location, but it was gone. Just also weird for me. And so I'm walking that area looking for this carcass, and I just didn't actually hear any branches breaking. I just see this shadow close to me, and and I see this elephant from inside the river coming towards me. Okay, so I walk back to the quad bike that we were using, and there's the other bigger elephant just walking almost like 10 meters away from me.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there looking at the quad, looking at the elephant, like, should I try and make it for the quad and drive back, or should I go through the river? But then I go, well, this riverbed is deep.
Yeah.
The other elephant is in that riverbed. I'm going to be trapped.
Yeah.
So I just decided, so I actually slowly made my way to the quad.
Yeah.
And I looked at the elephant and I'm like, okay, he's luckily in a good mood today, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like praying, like, please let the quad start, please let the quad start. Because, you know, back then we used to have problems with them not starting.
Yep.
And I actually did have a problem earlier that day where it didn't want to start and I had to sorry for my language, with my Leatherman. And luckily, I think that started and I just went.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's stuff like that. I mean, that elephant could have decided to charge me, but luckily it didn't.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, but it's, get your adrenaline up. It's something to add to the day. The day was a bit, maybe not that exciting.
Yeah.
You know.
Any other encounters that you can think of?
Well, the time of two of us, when we were monitoring the baby rhino.
Yeah.
And he just ended up walking into the buffaloes.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, you idiot. And I'm just waiting for its mother to maybe just intervene there and get him out, you know. And then I think you were looking at something else and I was just like, Jock. And we were and the buffalo started surrounding it and and it started screaming actually as they were trampling, and I could see of the horns and going in, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And we ended up running into the gang of buffaloes.
Yeah.
Throwing rocks and shouting, and this big one just kind of walked towards us, and we're like, what the hell are we doing? Mere puny humans running into a herd of buffalo.
Yeah, I just remember with my arms spread out like this, charging into this herd, going, Rah! And you on my left-hand side, right behind me, doing it as well.
Yeah.
And they ran.
They kind of walked away a bit and then
they stopped and they looked back at us and were like, why are we running away from you? And then they started charging us. And I think that's when I drew my firearm.
Yeah, I think...
I shot up into the air.
Yeah.
And I will never forget this because I still have that ringing sensation in my left ear.
Yeah, that was my mistake. I did what they told us to do in training.
Yeah.
But afterwards I realized, that's what training maybe sometimes doesn't always work.
Yeah, 100%.
Because we are in really rocky terrain.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is the bullet ricocheting between the two of us. And I think it actually just passed the vehicle or something like that, or into the ground.
Yeah.
So that's, luckily nothing happened. Nobody got injured, but that's when you kind of also realize not everything in terrain plays a big part as well.
Yeah.
Like if you're somewhere in Limpopo and just sand, then shoot into the ground. But otherwise, I mean, if you're in the city shooting into the air, yes.
Yeah, no, it's highly.
But when you're up in the open, nobody around you, then
Yeah, I mean, I had no choice. I mean, as we both learned that day.
Yeah.
But you mentioned baby rhino. I'm not going to mention any names. I never really got your side of the story on that one. I never got your experience on that. I mean, I was very close with it. For me, it was quite an emotional one. I did. I mean, I've never really had your take on it. How it was for you.
Yeah, I mean, so afterwards when the buffalo actually, luckily they ran away after the shots.
Yeah.
So that most luckily deterred them. And then, we're walking. I mean, we walked slowly forward.
Yeah.
And kind of waiting for the mother to come get her calf. And she was like, I think after her being in the poaching incident.
Yeah.
they kind of maybe shook her, so she didn't want to come closer to us. And the baby rhino like walking up towards me, like coming up towards my legs. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to get my scent on it,
Yeah.
And I don't know, there was kind of, I had to walk with it, trying to lure to the mother, like standing probably like a meter away from her, and the other male rhino like a meter away from them with a calf next to me. And I was scared.
Yeah.
I was like, if these two decide to charge now, I'm dead.
Yeah.
But it's
because the male was.
I didn't
because
really...
the male wasn't the father.
No.
And he was already tossing it up in the air like it was scrambled eggs.
Yeah. So I was
like an omelette.
I couldn't read the language at the time. Well, to the mother, it was like there was a part of me that wanted to lure the calf back to the vehicle, and we took it at the time, maybe with us. But it was like, no, it's nature.
Yeah.
Let's rather try and get it back to his mother. And it did go back. The mother did take it back. And yeah, that night, remember that night, I think they didn't have any eyes on them.
Yeah.
On the mother and the calf. So I went out the next morning with the APU manager at the time and the person on night shift, and we did end up finding them. And the mother was very protective, which was a really good sign.
Yeah.
But you could see it was struggling to get up.
It was born premature, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was born premature. And it was
like half a month almost.
Yeah, it was 10 kilograms when we started hand rearing it. It was 10 kilograms too light.
Yeah. But it was. Yeah, like
is this that story where like they were trying to get him away from her, and you pulled some you pulled some dodgy ass shit and almost died again.
So me and the APU manager at the time, we tried to. So they took a bucket load of feed with him, because we know the mother hasn't eaten for almost a day, so we knew she would be hungry. So it was Lucerne and Tev, I think, probably, that they just put down there for her to like lure her away, because we saw the baby couldn't get up. It looked like it was weak.
Yeah.
We first were staring at it like, okay, maybe it's just cold. And then like, okay, we maybe need to take a look at what's wrong. And me and the manager we walk all the way around this tinted camp, like around the back, trying to get in there. And I mean, when it was two of us, it was a bit too much noise. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll go try on my own. And I had to turn the radio down, because every time I have the radio, like what's going on, and that's just too loud. So I actually turned my radio off at one time, and I could hear them calling me. I'm like, oh, screw this. And like I was trying to walk towards her, and every time the mother like turns around, and I actually went down and leopard crawled towards his calf, and and then I'm like leopard crawling, and I just see the mother's ears like turning towards me. I'm like going back, and she just two times actually just ran towards my side, and I'm like I have to jog back. Luckily she didn't see me, and the wind was in my favor, luckily. And I think it was almost like half an hour, if not longer, of doing this and not getting anywhere. And I was at one point like, screw this, and just like when the wind was in my favor again, I just like ran up to it, so we tried to like pull him back up.
Yeah.
And it's alive, but it's not like dead weight.
Yeah.
And I mean, lifting heavy weights and that's great. Trying to pull up a baby rhino that's like 40.
It was just over 40 kgs.
Yeah, dead weight. It's not that easy.
And it's an uncomfortable pickup as well.
It's really uncomfortable, and you also don't want to injure it.
Yeah.
You're trying to pick it up, and then it screams, and you look at the mother,
Yeah.
and it's and try to like pick it up, put it in the sun to warm up, and I was able to do it at the time, and then come back, and it's didn't really realize what you just did.
Yeah.
I mean, that if she decided to charge while I was just standing there, there was no way for me to get away. There was a bit of brush, but it wasn't thick.
Yeah.
I would have maybe ran through thorns and she would have just continued after me. That wouldn't have deterred her away.
No.
So, I mean, yeah, it's that type of stuff, you know, not a lot of people do that, and it is maybe stupid, but it's at the time.
At the time,
I didn't
you're
really
doing
think.
what you're doing because, unfortunately, there's you mentioned just now about it's nature taking its course. Unfortunately, in this situation, the fact that we had to intervene with a buffalo, was already, bypassing that rule of thumb of nature, let nature take its course. But we were doing it for an important reason.
But it's also afterwards we found out that she wasn't giving any milk.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, but I still think, even if she was giving milk, or if we would realize that sooner, I still think it wouldn't have any effect, because from what happened with it afterwards, I mean, even the vet that was there with us, and then the other reservists taken to said that's.
Well, I think while the time it was with us, I think everyone who was involved.
We
and
tried our best.
From my personal experience with him, and I think this is probably why it's a hard one for me, especially at that time of the year. It's because he used to sleep next to me. I mean, I would wake him up every 2 hours to feed him.
Yeah, I think we were together. Yeah, we were sleeping with it basically.
And it would lie next to me.
Yeah.
I would go out of my way to lie next to it, so when it got up, I would get up so it could pull out its IV and it didn't stand on its umbilical cord. But the one night that I did fall asleep after feeding it, it actually fell asleep next to my back.
Yeah, I remember.
And
I think somebody took a photo of that actually.
Yeah, the reserve manager and his girlfriend. So for me, we gave it a lot of love.
Yeah, we did what we could.
Yeah.
With what we had.
Anyways, I think moving on from that subject, it's coming towards the end. Thank you very much for giving some insight into the training, into the job. If there was something that you wanted to say to someone who was interested in pursuing this career or trying to make a difference in wildlife conservation, what would you say to them?
I mean, I think somebody who wants to get into anti-poaching specifically, or game rangers, stuff like that, I think, it's you really have to care about animals.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot doing this job. I mean, family time and the amount of times you work extra time, you don't get a lot of time off.
Doubles, triples.
But it's also don't watch any military something. Don't get this romanticized idea of what it is. I mean, there's a lot of courses there. It's great courses, tactical training, advanced firearm training, which is good. But I mean, if you're just gonna do CQC stuff or house cleaning stuff, and you have to walk in the bush, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
But don't try and get this romanticized idea of what anti-poaching is.
Yeah.
And keep your mind open.
Yeah.
So be a sponge.
Yeah.
Because if you get to the right place in anti-poaching, people in the Kruger who's got a lot of experience, they're going to teach you a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, be careful where you work at. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Because there are unfortunately places who takes advantage of people who they know loves animals, and they would. I mean, we don't do this for the salary, but at the end of the day, you do need to eat.
Yeah.
So that's just another thing. Don't expect to become rich or anything. If you're gonna go into this job for money, you're at the wrong place already.
Yeah.
Then go into close protection or something like that, maybe for VIP guests.
Yeah.
But anti-poaching, it is a hard job. But the experiences and the knowledge you gain, and getting so close to the animals, you can't experience that type of stuff when you on a game drive.
No.
It's just
Agreed.
a lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to do this. And maybe we'll have you again. And then to all the new listeners, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to the podcast. I really appreciate it. I would really appreciate if everyone could send me a DM, just to give you honest feedback as to what I need to do to improve in order to help Echoes from the Wild grow. If you guys know of any rangers or anyone who does work with wildlife conservation that you think would be great for me to chat to, that would be awesome. And everyone stay safe out there. Thanks for joining me on today's episode. If you'd like to reach out, you can find me on Instagram at rangersforrhinos, or send me an email at jacques.energy@gmail.com. For those of you listening on YouTube, leave a comment below and I'll get back to you when I can. Appreciate your support and see you in the next episode.